All right, so the first topic we're going to talk about is compare and order numbers, and I already have a problem worked out for us here and some notes to go with it. So the first question says, order the following numbers from least to greatest. So the calculator has two built-in programs for you to help you do this. They are sort A and sort D. So you might want to add this to your notes. Sort A stands for least to greatest. So in this instance, we're going to be using the sort A button. If it said go from greatest to least, it would be the sort D button. Now be careful with these problems because this is the common error that they're going to have is they're going to switch these around. So you might get 10 of these in a row that say least to greatest, and the 11th one will have it switched. So make sure you're reading the directions because if you don't, you could burn yourself. So here we go. They gave us 4 numbers that we have to organize from least to greatest. Now, you might want to be able to do it by hand, but it's nice to kind of get familiar with the calculator as we're going through the course. So whenever we can use the calculator, we're going to try to implement it because it's nice to know certain things in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to type these numbers in just as I see them. So I have 5.2 with a line over it. 5.2 with a line over it is a bunch of 2's after it. So I'm just going to put in a bunch of, well, let me back up. Hang on. Sorry, I get ahead of myself. What I want to do is I want to get into the list screen. So I'm going to hit the Stat button, I'm going to hit Edit, and now I'm in the list screen. So I'm going to put these numbers here into this list 1. Always use list 1. List 1 is always the default list that most of the programs in here will read off of. So again, I'm sorry about that. I want to go in 5.2 repeating. So I'm going to put a bunch of 2's after that. Don't go crazy. Just put like 4 or 5 in there. It'll know what you mean. Then 26 divided by 5. You can do it right on the screen just like that. 26 divided by 5 is 5.2. And then the square root of 34. To get the square root, you hit the second key. And then right above the little x to the second, if you up above the 7 there is the square root. And we want the square root of 34. Enter. So that's 5.831. I've written that there. And then finally 5.1. So I just took the numbers just as they were given to me. I put them right in my list 1. And now I'm going to sort them. So I'm going to quit this screen. 1 second, quit. I'm going to go back into the list screen. So I'm going to hit the Stat button. If I notice right there, you have sort A and sort D. Sort A is ascending, sort D is descending. I need sort A. So I'm going to hit sort A. And it's going to say, what do you want me to sort? Well, we want to sort list 1. We put all our stuff in list 1, so we have to tell it list 1. If you notice, right above the number 1 in yellow is list 1, L1. So I'm going to hit second, 1, and your screen should look like that. And I'm going to hit enter, and it'll say done. So when I hit the Stat button and go back into the calculate screen, Stat button and go into the edit screen, there's my list, and it's all organized from least to greatest. So the smallest number is 5.1. Then they say it's 5.2. But I made a note to myself as I went through these to know what it is. So 5.2 is really 26 divided by 5. So 26 divided by 5, 5.2. And then 5.2 repeating, we said that was 5 with a bunch of 2's after it. So there you have it. And then finally the square root of 34, which is 5.831. So I know the answer to this question is C. If you're not reading the directions, if you go greatest to least, you run the risk of picking the wrong one. Most of the time, they'll have that. They know that's the common error, and they'll throw that in there. So make sure you're reading the directions. Make sure you're using the correct sort, and do it that way. Next, they give us an inequality question. Now, it says, choose the correct comparison for this number. Now, notice they're written as a compound inequality. Just as a review, inequalities, think of them as little alligator mouths. They always want to eat the bigger number. Okay, so we have to figure out what the biggest number here is. So I have 0.60. I'm just going to leave it like that. Now, if I have a decimal like this, or I'm sorry, percent, I want to convert that percent to a decimal. To convert a percent to a decimal, in middle school, they like to say move the decimal place. I don't like doing that because I think that gets confusing. What you need to do is divide by 100. So I'm going to take 67 and I'm going to divide it by 100. I'm going to do that right in my calculator because what will happen is you start moving decimals. If you get a funky percent like 1.03% and start moving decimals, you might get confused on which way to do it. That's why I say you should always just divide it by 100. So I need to go 67 divided by 100. So that's really 0.67. And then finally 1/2, 1 divided by 2, 0.5. Now think of it in terms of money. Okay. Now, It just depends. I'm not even looking at the answers. Notice I have them blocked because we can write this one of two ways. Well, there's two ways you can write it and still technically be correct. If I went least to greatest, so the smallest amount of money I have up here would be 50 cents. So I'm going to say 1/2 would go first, but the alligator would rather eat 60 cents, so that's going to be 0.6, and it would rather eat the 0.67. Okay. The other way of writing it would be going the biggest number to the smallest number. So I can say, okay, it would rather eat the, sorry, this should be 67%. Let's get rid of that. That's why I don't like using pens in math class. Get rid of that. So if I'm going to convert the biggest number to the smallest number, the biggest number would have been the 67%. Sorry about the bell. Then it would go, oops, wrong symbol. My bad. Try it one more time, Mr. Fry. 67. It would rather eat that, 67%, to the 0.60, to the 0.5, or the 1/2. We said 1/2. Okay. So these two ways of writing it mean the same thing. They're logically equivalent. I want the biggest number. Notice the alligator would rather eat the biggest number, work its way down, or it would rather eat the biggest number going that way. They mean the same thing, though. So that's the main thing you need to keep in mind. So our answer is going to be C again. Okay. So if you write it one way and you don't see it up there, don't panic. Write it the other way. Okay. And like I said, don't use a pen. I'm just using a pen because it shows up easier on this video than it would a pencil. But that's the general gist of this. So you convert everything to a decimal. Think of it in terms of money, and then write it each way. So I went the smallest number to the biggest, so that's what I did down here. So I had 1/2 because it was 0.5, so 50 cents is the smallest amount of money. Then 0.60, so I'm put the 0 in there, and then 67%. Okay, ignore that. That's not supposed to be there. That was my bad. And then up here, I wrote it the other way. So I started off with 67%, and I worked my way to the smallest number. So 67% going down, and I get that. Okay. And that's pretty much all you really need to know about this section. You have your sort A, your sort D. You have to remember that inequalities, just think of them in terms of alligators eating bigger numbers. And that's pretty much it.